Good afternoon. Convening our final meeting of the House Investigative Committee to investigate compliance with audit numbers 19-12 and 21-01. Good afternoon to members of the committee and to members of the public who may be tuning in, as well as to any subpoenaed witnesses and their counsel who are on our Zoom. For the public, let me introduce my committee members. To my right is Vice Chair Linda Ichiyama, Chair Mark Hashem, Chair David Tarnas, and Representative Kyle Yamashita. To my left is Representative Amy Perruso and Chair Dale Kobayashi. And joining us via Zoom is House Minority Leader Val Okimoto. Members, I want to start at the outset of just thanking all of you for your hard work and dedication over the last 7 months to take a deep dive into this audit report. So for members of the public, our agenda as posted is going to be a discussion and approval of final report and any additional committee procedural matters that we have, which I anticipate none of. So we're going to jump right into the discussion and approval of the final report. Members, as has been circulated to you, the final report and has gone through some different revisions. I wanted to point out the bigger areas of the changes that were made and provided to you. First, there was a big overall change where we just flipped the commentaries and the recommendations for better readability. In addition, though, I wanted to point out a couple of things. Since the last report, there was a section at pages 14 and 15 about updating leases. And what came to the attention of the committee, in addition to all the other documents that we had, was this conversation that was happening in the board on January 14th, 2022, that impacted and kind of gave us a little bit more meat to add to that section. So there you saw some of the changes there, making the recommendation for updating leases, just generally. Okay. Members, I wanted to go to page 69. In this section, there was a table where we listed the dates, the termination dates of Kauai leases. I wanted to point that out to you because from our reading and our looking at the leases, there's a footnote there that shows where our staff and we determined there were some inconsistencies between the dates from one document that ADC provided to us. For example, in one instance, there's a difference of a date of 30 years between the termination date. So we wanted to note what the ADC document said, but then what the leases revealed in our further determination, just so that we would be accurate as to that table. Okay, I also wanted to point out at the beginning of the SLDF section, at page 10, there was some discussions about concerns raised regarding DLNR administration that came in through the responses to our draft report. That was moved in the more appropriate section on the comments on responses. And so you also saw that. Okay. Members, I wanted to point out in the recorded interview section of chapter 4 at pages 80-81, there was a discussion about the status of recorded interviews. That was pulled out because some of the information that we gleaned from the recorded interviews and the status of recorded interviews was from an informal meeting on this committee and not through testimony. Okay. I also wanted to point out that on the section on the further follow-up needed, there was much of supporting evidence on the rail section that was put into the appendix. So that was several drafts ago that was done, and I wanted to point that out to you all. And I believe that is the bulk of it. In the appendices, members, having looked at this, the appendices are going to be attached as to the back of this report is a combination of links and then some additions of the documents. There are going to be 2 additional appendixes that are going to be added that have been critical to understanding the functions actually of ADC, we're going to add the appendix of the ADC's land management policies and guidelines of 2009 that's referenced in the report, as well as the most recent version of ADC's plan. They gave us multiple versions, so we weren't able to quickly identify that, but we want to get the latest version of the plan that their board has worked on. So that will be the additions to the appendices. Members, with all of that said, this report I present to you as the work of this group, and that we'll be ready to vote on this. When we take the vote, my recommendation will be to accept the final report as circulated to this committee, with technical non-substantive amendments made to the report for purposes of clarity, consistency, and style. So when we take the vote, members, the plan would be that we would run this one final time through with all the changes that we had discussed, as well as let HMSO do their magic work for consistency for technical amendments. And then it will be filed on by noon tomorrow, which is a deadline which we have been extended pursuant to speaker's approval. Members, any questions or discussion on the process, the mechanics of this? Any questions on just the process, the mechanics of how we're going to vote?
Oh, no, what you said about what's going to happen in the report?
Okay, so we're gonna take the vote, and it's gonna include for technical non-substantive amendments to be made, and then we're gonna
On the current draft.
yes, from the current draft,
So voting whether or not we accept those amendments or the draft.
we're gonna vote to accept the draft as a whole with technical non-substantive amendments to be made for clarity, consistency, and to. It will be to accept this report as circulated with technical non-substantive amendments for purposes of clarity, consistency, and style. And then we will file the report. The report will be officially filed by noon tomorrow. Yes. Okay, so any questions on the procedure or the mechanics of us just voting and filing today? Go ahead.
If I have an additional request for one more document to be included in the appendix, would we consider that before we vote on the final report, or?
Yes, why don't I will take that amendment up or that request first. But okay, any more questions?
Well, just follow up on this. So now is the time, I guess, was your question, if we do have anything we'd like changed on here, that even they're planning to file it tomorrow, that's still on the table?
We've been working on this draft. Members have been submitting me questions and concerns this whole time. If you have something, we could take it up, but it will be my discretion to see if we offer it to the committee. If we want to, we can take a recess, and Mr. Kobayashi, you can explain to me what it is that you want to provide.
Well, I'm just saying, because I guess for Amy, it's something that you want altered here.
No, she just wants to add an appendix, a
Or add
document.
something, so to add in. So to alter is different than to add in. If we want to add in something, that's fine.
Well, there's been no substantive I have not received any substantive comments from you, Chair Kobayashi.
This came out at 11 o'clock last night.
I have received ongoing substantive amendments from all of the other members. So we haven't received anything from you, and I assume that you have not had anything. If you do.
So this thing came out at 11 o'clock last night. So as everybody here has read this entire thing since 11 o'clock last night?
Yeah,
Rest of you
yes.
guys?
Yes.
Pretty fast. I mean, so I haven't tried to get through this whole thing. I mean,
Chair
give me the whole night.
Chair Kobayashi, we also had sent it out to you 2 days before, and the bulk of those changes, again, as I reiterated just previously, some of the changes were just cosmetic of flipping portions of commentary. So
Some of them were.
So you have had this draft for since Monday?
Not this draft, not this final draft.
Tuesday. And then prior to that, you had copies of this
Just go
draft.
ahead. Just go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Rep. Perruso, you had a question on the process and you wanted to add something to the appendix?
Yeah, so I realize this is a challenging question. and I just wanted to put it to the body so that it is put to the body. We have had many discussions about the deputy AG under DLNR and the written opinion that they provided to the committee, which is part of our working papers, rationalizing their approach to ceded land revenues. And I would just like to have that document included as an appendix so that it's available for public scrutiny.
I have considered that, and I have gone back and forth on this as well. Rep. Perruso, because it is protected by attorney-client privilege, that is something that I think this committee has to respect. And so it will not be added. I'm not making the recommendation that it be added, but I do understand your concerns. I hope that the section on the public land trust that we endeavored to write to explain the complexity around the public land trust, the way that the government of Hawaii, the state of Hawaii handles it, because it really is a jointly determined way that we approach ceded land revenues. It's both executive and legislative. That I think that should capture some of the concerns that you raised. And certainly our recommendation highlights how further legislative work needs to be done around that area of our obligations as a state. So I do appreciate that. So, but at this point, I'm going to not add that because it's protected by attorney-client privilege. Okay. Members, I want to open up to any comments, and we want to kind of, this is your opportunity to talk about the report and any comments you want to make. And then I will close with some comments and then we'll take the vote. Hey, anyone want to make any comments? Go ahead, Representative Kobayashi.
Thank you. So this is my last chance to speak out on my opinions on this report. And a lot of it has been said already. Before we take the vote, I just want to reiterate that this report is written in terms of the committee position is this and that. I'm a member of this committee, but I don't stand by much of what's in here, particularly with respect to the work done evaluating the messenger, the auditor, who audited the two agencies that we're here to look into. That we looked into the resolution in caucus, we talked about that, and I raised a question then as well. When the membership voted for this resolution, can anybody honestly say that they were voting with the intention of auditing the auditor and not these two agencies primarily as a focus? I don't think they can. So my position has been the same, that the work we've done looking at evaluating the performance of the auditor rather than solely of the agencies that he was looking at is not within the scope of this committee. And we should not be doing this. Furthermore, if you look at much of the findings that's taken place showing in the final report and in the drafts all the way, it's really innuendo, just casting a negative light on the auditor. I don't see a lot of support here. And I also don't see any justice in us issuing criticisms of any agency or anybody without them having a chance to address the charges being made. So, we have not had a hearing. We've allowed the auditor to come here and address any of these findings. And I think for much of these that I see, there's easy answers for, and it never got addressed. I think, if I look at some of the more egregious items in chapter 4 regarding the auditor, a lot of talk was happening about the need to have committees to follow up on the auditor's performance. It's pretty clear that in the world of auditing, the peer review is what serves that function. So through NCSL, you have peer reviews where other states come, look at the audits. Last time they came, I was looking at the report on the auditor's website. 2019, look at the hard audit. They got the best passing grade on their work. And I think rather than having a committee of lay people look at it, I think you can really rely on the peer reviews done by other states for the work done by our particular auditor. So again, I will be voting no as far as accepting this report. I think it's really gone down the wrong road in so far as what we're here to do and what was important in our investigation. And it's really disappointing that this is the end result of what we've done here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Kobayashi. I didn't ask and I didn't look at House Minority Leader Val Okimoto. House Minority Leader Okimoto, did you want to make any comments?
No, no
we take
comment.
the vote?
No comments. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Okay, members, any comments from you folks? Representative Tarnas, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to appreciate your leadership on this. This is a very challenging exercise that we've gone through. But as it relates to the Special Land and Development Fund, I think it's been very healthy for us to dig into it, find out what should be improved. And we've come up with some solid recommendations that we're going to move and try to implement this session and probably next session as well, to improve the way that leases are handled here in the state of public lands, and to make sure that the state gets its fair share of income, and that we steward our public trust resources in a very responsible way. So I appreciate the good work that we've done on this. Let me make a comment about the whole issue about us actually looking into the way that the audits were done and questions we have about the audit. I reference again, since I'm not an auditor, but this is when we attended the Council on State Governments West conference some months ago. I went to a specific training, a panel on oversight committees, and asked that question. If we, in our deliberations of the oversight committee, find that we have questions about the audit, the auditor itself, and the auditing process, is it appropriate for us to pursue those questions and come up with our own evaluation and recommendations? And it was a resounding yes. Even though they said it would be unpopular, they said, yes, it's a responsibility of those oversight committees, such as this one, to follow up on those. I recognize I'm not an expert in this area, but I think we were doing what we were tasked to do as an investigative committee. So with that in mind, I support us moving forward with this draft report as a final. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more comments on this side? Representative Perruso, and then I'll go to Representative Ichiyama if there's no one else.
So I just wanted to thank the chair and actually all of the members of the committee for engaging in this process. I think that the outcome is a matter of debate and consensus building and compromise. I think that we had many challenging conversations, and I think there are still open questions that are reflected in the document. But I think that it does reflect the voices of my community that I tried to bring to the work of ADC, and for that I'm very grateful. And I think that we will continue to work on this issue. And I am again grateful for the work of this committee. So mahalo.
And Vice Chair Ichiyama.
Thank you, Chair. I echo Rep. Perruso's thoughts. I think we've all been on a journey together as a committee this past interim, one that was uncharted. And I think, Chair, you said it at our very first hearing that the outcome is not predetermined here and that we were going to follow the evidence. And I think, respectfully to Rep. Kobayashi's, I think, point, we didn't know where the evidence was going to take us. And what I feel most proud of in the report that we're putting out is that we are presenting our findings, evidence that was presented to us, to the public, and that we are being fully transparent about what the information that the committee received. Admittedly, there are many things that we just didn't have enough time to follow up on, but I think that we are putting that information out there, and I think that's going to only improve state government and state agencies. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, members. For my closing comments, I was going to read a little bit about the executive summary, but I think what I want to close with before we take the vote, and actually if my staff can pass around just the set of the bills that we introduced. Rather than read all of the executive summary, I'm going to just read a little portion of it. And I think, this committee was established on April 29th, 2021. We were finally set in June 2021. So we've really worked on a very tight deadline. We have subpoenaed thousands of documents. We've had 19 public hearings with 22 subpoenaed witnesses. I think the work of this committee has been commendable, and that our deep dive into the operations of DLNR and ADC revealed common themes and challenges in the management of public lands, and that two of the bills in this package that we were able to file for this legislative session address the serious issues of public land management with regards to SLDF and ADC, and that these bills are going to move forward. In addition to the work that we did with the auditor, there are also two measures that we hope will improve the operations and really be consistent with best practices and the Yellow Book standards. And so I'm hopeful that we can also have consideration of that. The work of this investigative committee, again, has resulted in, I think, quality recommendations that we will be moving forward with. And so I thank this committee, all of you, for the hard work. And I also would like to thank our committee staff who have helped pour over thousands and thousands of documents, have transcribed our hearing and meeting conversations, and have helped us to really analyze and do the deep dive that we needed to do to get to this place where we have these 4 bills. I look forward to the work that we continue ahead with members. This is an exciting session, and we certainly have some bills with us that we can move forward. If there's no further comments or conversations, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair's recommendation is to adopt the report with technical but substantive amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Hashem. Rep. Kobayashi.
No.
Rep. Perruso.
Aye.
Rep. Tarnas.
Aye.
Rep. Yamashita.
Aye.
Rep. Okimoto.
No vote, please.
Chair, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Members, the last thing on our agenda is other procedural matters. I just want to reiterate, members, that we will be filing the final report by 12 noon tomorrow. Members, I'm going to have my staff pass around, however, the completed executive summary and the recommendations from the report. So this will be the executive summary and the recommendations that are in the report. And members, you will be authorized to circulate those the executive summary and recommendations, but the final report will be filed tomorrow by noon. All right. Thank you, members. We are adjourned.